June 6, 1944. Dawn over the English Channel. The horizon burns pink with the first light of D-Day. Below, thousands of landing craft churn toward Normandy's beaches, and above them, the sky hums with a sound that makes the ground itself tremble. The roar isn't from one plane or a dozen, it's from thousands. P-51 Mustangs slice through the clouds in formation. B-17 Flying Fortresses drone steadily toward their targets, escorted by squadrons of P-47 Thunderbolts. From horizon to horizon, silver wings glint like a storm of mirrors. To the German defenders, it looks like the sky itself has turned metallic. Corporal Dieter Hahn of the 21st Panzer Division stares upward in disbelief. Mein Gott, he mutters, clutching his helmet. It's endless. He's not wrong. America's industrial might now lives in the air. 12,000 aircraft supporting Operation Overlord alone. The Luftwaffe barely manages a fraction of that. German pilots, once kings of the sky, now face overwhelming odds. Some missions, and before they even begin, shot down before reaching cruising altitude. From his base in England, Colonel James Doolittle watches the massive formations vanish into the distance. Each flight group has been meticulously planned. Supply planes, bombers, fighters, all synchronized with the precision of a clock built by a nation. This, he says quietly to his adjutant, is what industry looks like when it decides to fight. The scene repeats daily across Europe. American bombers rain steel over Cologne, Hamburg, and Berlin, while factories back home are already replacing any losses before the smoke clears. It's a production miracle with wings. Even when 1,000 planes don't return, the next 1,000 are already on their way. Newer, faster, better armed. And for the first time in the war, Germany begins to lose something far more crucial than territory or aircraft. It loses belief. Its soldiers whisper that fighting the Americans is like trying to stop the tide with bare hands. By late 1944, the Luftwaffe was no longer the proud, lethal machine that had once terrorized Europe's skies. What remained was a shadow, a force crippled by fuel shortages, pilot losses, and the crushing weight of America's industrial avalanche. Every new German fighter that rolled off the line, whether a Messerschmitt Bf 109 or the revolutionary Me-262 jet, faced an enemy that could replace 10 for every one destroyed. On a frigid morning near Kassel, a young Luftwaffe lieutenant named Karl Brenner prepared for what would likely be his final mission. His aircraft, a weathered FW-190, had been patched together from parts of 3 different planes. His ground crew worked silently, knowing there was barely enough fuel for a single sortie. Overhead, the distant growl of Allied bombers was already audible. Hundreds of engines, a mechanical thundercloud moving east. When Brenner finally took off, the sky ahead was filled with silver dots. American bombers flying in perfect formation, their contrails like white scars across the heavens. P-51 Mustangs weaved above them, cutting off every possible approach. Brenner tried to climb, to gain position, but before he could close in, tracer fire lit up his cockpit. One burst, then another, and his plane spiraled downward, smoke trailing like a dying comet. He didn't stand a chance. On the ground, Hitler's officers argued over impossible solutions. New jets, secret weapons, miracle fuels. But none of it mattered anymore. America wasn't just outproducing Germany. It was outlasting it, overwhelming it, and erasing its advantage day by day. The numbers told a brutal story. By the end of 1944, the Luftwaffe had lost nearly 30,000 planes. The United States had already built triple that. For every German pilot trained, the U.S. trained 5. For every aircraft lost, another took off within days. The skies, once the pride of the Reich, now belonged to the Stars and Stripes. And in the cold bunkers beneath Berlin, the generals finally stopped arguing about tactics. They started whispering about survival. February 1945, the war had turned into a slow-motion collapse. Across Europe, Allied bombers ruled the daylight, and by night, even the stars seemed to favor them. German radar screens flickered with dots, too many to count, as another wave of B-17s and Lancasters roared toward Dresden, Cologne, and Berlin. For civilians below, the sky had become both shield and punishment. In the underground command bunker near Tempelhof Airport, Major General Robert Ritter von Grime stared at a map pinned with hundreds of colored markers. Red for Allied formations, black for what remained of the Luftwaffe squadrons. The red markers had swallowed the map. He turned to his aide, voice hoarse. There's no air war left to fight. Outside, on what was once a proud Luftwaffe airfield, burned-out wrecks of Me-109s and FW-190s lay scattered like metallic skeletons. Mechanics stripped engines for parts. Pilots sat smoking on the wings of grounded planes, their eyes empty. A thin snow covered the wreckage, softening the ruins of a dream that once believed it could dominate the world. Meanwhile, on the other side of the Atlantic, the great engines of American industry continued to roar. The Ford plants, the Boeing lines, the Douglas and Lockheed factories, all still working, still producing. Even as victory loomed, the output didn't stop. Cargo planes, bombers, fighters, they rolled off the lines like a tide that refused to ebb. In Washington, D.C., a military analyst presented a final report to General Hap Arnold. Sir, total aircraft production exceeds 300,000 units. Germany's war machine is effectively destroyed. Arnold nodded silently, setting the paper down. It wasn't the bombs that broke them, he said. It was the factories. Back in Berlin, as American bombers passed overhead one final time, the city shuddered beneath the weight of inevitability. The sound of engines faded into the distance, and for the first time in years, the sky above the Reich fell silent. That silence didn't just mark defeat. It marked the triumph of a nation that had turned its ingenuity, its labor, and its unity into an unstoppable force. The war had been won long before the final bullet was fired, in the roaring, tireless heart of America's factories. As the smoke cleared and the world began to rebuild, one truth remained. America's strength wasn't just in its soldiers, but in its spirit, its factories, and its people. The nation that once built cars and tractors had built freedom instead. If you enjoyed this journey through history, make sure to like, subscribe, and join us again here on America in Time, where every story reminds us how determination shaped a nation and changed the world forever. And click the video on the right to watch part 1.